get an LLC done immediately, especially for creators. A lot of creators come to me and ask me, when should I incorporate? And I'm like, immediately. Because what people don't realize is when you have a corporation, it protects your private personal assets. If you get sued because of your business or your YouTube channel, if you don't have an LLC in place, that's a lack of a protection there, right?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the party. Hopefully I can get this intro right for you guys. I'm a little bit of a mess today. I'm like getting over, I don't even know what, something. It wasn't COVID, thank goodness, but it's that time of year, you guys. I feel like everybody's getting sick. Everybody's got something, and I didn't escape it. I'm just seriously so happy that it wasn't COVID. I had this gnarly cough. Anyways, sure, that's why you tuned in to this podcast to hear about my cough. So if I sound a little wonky, that's why. But we are in the home stretch, you guys, of planning and kicking off our job fair that's happening January 30th this month. At the end of this month, when you guys are tuning in, it might not have happened yet, depending on when you listen to this episode. So if you catch this in time, I highly encourage you to check it out. You would go to imwim.com/event/job fair, which we will share on the screen now. So we are hosting this job. We've hosted job fairs like at least twice a year for the last few. It's such an incredible event. So I'm so excited about this one. We have really great companies who are involved. Basically, we humanize a job board. So I've been doing a lot more recruiting this year with my consultancy, Tribe Monday. And I've just noticed a lot of things that are broken in that industry and just in job searching in general. And mostly that JD's job descriptions are very inaccurate and not really taking into account the realities of what job seekers are looking for. So, what we aim to do in this event, and I think we've been largely really successful with it, is humanizing a job board. So, we have a virtual stage, it's a virtual event, and we get all of our hiring managers on the stage. They each have 2 to 3 minutes to just go over why do you work for this company? What actually sets you apart from other companies in the industry or other companies that are out there at all? And we try to really get to know these people. We spend more time at work sometimes than we spend with our family most of the time. And so I just want for us to get a accurate reflection of what the role is, what the culture's like, and things like that. After we have everyone sort of do an initial share about their companies, we have breakout sessions. And so you can speak one-on-one directly with hiring managers. You're in a group setting, so it's not private, but we've had dozens of people hired from these events, which is incredible. It's huge. So we're going to continue to host these. Anyways, if you are looking for a job, you should definitely check out our website. We'll drop the URL on the screen right now. But in case you're listening, it's imwim.com/event/job fair. Again, it's imwim.com/event/job fair. And there you can see it's a completely free event for job seekers and for people who are hiring. There's a small fee unless you're a member. And if you're a member of WIM, you participate completely for free. So definitely check out our site if you want to participate on either end of the spectrum. We would love, love, love to have you. And I hope that in the next few weeks, I can share success stories from that event. I freaking love sharing success stories from this event. So we have a guest this week who is phenomenal. So her name is Tyler Chou. And she is a lawyer in the creator economy. She's a creator economy attorney. We were connected a few months ago by someone who I'm over the moon about. She's a member of WIM, and she was like, you should really connect with her. She's great. She didn't even have to honestly say that much, like a referral from her. I'm just like, I'm all me with her finally. Of course. So we met And she's great. She lives in California. I invited her to come on the podcast today so you guys can get to know her as well. So we talked about her childhood and growing up and her upbringing, her origins, like why and how she created an entire law practice dedicated to the creator economy, the types of clients that she has, advice that she has for you guys, but also what sets her apart, which I definitely wanted to talk about on the show. I'm intrigued by it at least, is she's not just your like run of the mill lawyer. She herself has 300,000 subscribers on YouTube. So freaking good for her. And I think that is transferable to a lot of you guys who are listening. You don't have to be a lawyer to be a business owner and appreciate personal branding and your own business marketing, which she has done an incredible job at, building this incredible YouTube channel for herself. So we talk a little bit about that as well, the toughest parts of building her law firm and advice that she has to give to you guys as you're navigating the legalities of the creator economy. It's a great episode. She's awesome. And I'm excited for you guys to listen. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this show. And I actually want to give you guys like a really heartfelt, warm thank you, because I've been doing this show now we're at well over 200 episodes. It's probably one of the most consistent things I've had in my life ever. And I don't know, the fact that you guys tune in week over week and you're hungry for information and you care so much about your career and you want to succeed. And I don't know, I really appreciate how much you enjoy what I enjoy, which is all these conversations with such cool guests, but also that you just support this show. And it means a lot. I'm going to be doing a lot more solo episodes coming up to get a little bit more personal with you guys. So hopefully that resonates with some people I know on the show. I've discussed things like my fertility journey and gotten personal about some of my business, upbringing and the highs and the lows of running my own business. So I'd love to hear from you guys though. What topics, as we plan out the rest of 2024, resonate with you and what you really want to hear about, who you want to hear from, whether it's myself or you're just like, no, I'm good with that, Jess. Like, I want to hear more guests. Who do you want to hear from? I will not be offended. I want to make sure this is enjoyable of a show for you guys. And I want to have to be like go into a new era. I feel like every few months, I want to sort of like reinvent the show to a certain extent and add something new, add something cool and enjoyable. And I'm in that era now of like that transition. So the best way is like DM us on Instagram. It's at I am Wim. So IAMWIIM. Just send us a DM. Be like, hey, I was listening to the episode and, I would love for you to dive into this topic or that topic, whether it's personal and about like women generally, or very specifically about influencer marketing. Timely topics we love. So send us your recommendations. And if you want to apply to be interviewed, you always can. I feel like not enough people recognize that. They're like, oh, well, she must handpick the people who were interviewed. And like to a certain extent, we do. But if you're not on our radar, get on our radar, girl. So go on our website, imwin.com/podcast. There is a place where you can apply to be a guest on the show. We would love to have you and tell us your story. And you're going to hear from Tyler right now about her story. Enjoy this episode, guys. This show is sponsored by Women in Influencer Marketing, better known as WIM, the best online community for the creator economy. You will meet fellow influencer marketers, you'll meet brands, you'll meet talent agencies to talk shop, get hired, and even find a mentor. When you become a member, do not forget to check out all of our incredible resources. For example, we have dozens of masterclasses from the top voices at TikTok, at YouTube, award-winning agencies, and women who are paving the way for us all. So if you want the chance to network with a who's who in influencer marketing, check out what it takes to become a member. Make more money and have fun doing it. Visit iamwim.com/join. That's IAMWIIM.com/join today. And I so look forward to seeing you more around the community. So I'm just grateful to have you come onto the show today. I think we connected a few months back with a mutual connection who's also a member of WIM and was like, you have to meet Tyler. She's great. And we met and now I get to have you on the show. So thank you for being here today. How are you?
I'm so well, Jesse. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor. I really think you have such a great organization and a group of women who are so incredibly warm and supportive and super smart. So I'm really happy to be a member as well. And thank you for having me on. I'm so
Totally.
excited.
Totally. You're part of that group now. So I'm really happy to have you on. I feel like there's a lot of just knowledge share that we're going to have today. You have your own law practice and you've just seen so much in the industry. So we're going to get into all of it today. But I think before we get into the nitty gritty of influencer marketing, creator economy, and all that stuff, I just like to have our listeners, especially and myself, just get to
Mhm.
know you a little bit more. So tell us, let's go back to the beginning. Let's start from there. I'd love to just learn a little bit more, where are you from? And even what you wanted to be as a kid. Did you always grow up wanting to be in an artistic field or the legal field? Tell us more about that.
Well, I love this question. Thank you. People usually don't go that far back, but I think where we come from and where our childhoods were is very important because it really kind of molds us to be who we are. So I was actually born in Taiwan, and I came here when I was 7. My parents came 2 years before me and actually left me for 2 years, so that was kind of a tough time. But I came when I was 7, and we grew up in the Ontario Claremont area, which is about an hour outside of LA, which is where I live now. And I grew up working in the swap meets. We grew up really poor, even though that was not how I was born. Actually, when I was born, my dad was one of the wealthiest men in Asia. And through his vice president embezzling all his money, the company collapsed. And so they had to come to America with $500 to their names. So I grew up in a school where I was the only Asian. I was very shy. I read a lot. I loved books. They were kind of like my safety blanket. It's where I went. I read probably 3 to 5 books a week. And so as a child, I wanted to be a writer. That was my dream. I wanted to be a novelist, and it kind of never wavered. I mean, I thought there was okay, maybe I'll be a lawyer because that's practical and it uses the written word. And so that would be cool. So all throughout, I wanted to be an English major. So I went to Berkeley as an English major. My focus was Jane Austen. I'm a total Anglophile. And so I said to myself, in high school, I was like, if I publish a book, then I won't go to college, which was silly. But, I didn't publish a book. And then in college, I was like, if I publish a book. But the thing about writing is I've never finished a novel because I think, oh, if I finish it, then I have to put it out into the world. And that's scary. So I've never done that. So in college, I decided, because my parents still don't speak much in English. I have 2 younger siblings. I went to law school to be practical and to take care of them. And I wanted to be a DA, from a very young age. I think it's because, I was bullied. So I always wanted to champion the victims of the world. So I went to law school wanting to be a DA and worked my first summer at the DA's office. But then because they weren't hiring, I went into business litigation and realized that I really wasn't making that big of a difference. I mean, people don't realize this about litigation, but 90% of cases do not go to trial. They're always settled out of court. You go to a settlement conference, you write your client a letter saying, I got you $10,000, and that's it. You don't make any difference in anyone's life. So in my second year as an attorney, I decided I wanted to represent creatives, right? I've always loved writers. And so a lot of my friends who are writers would bring me their writing contracts in Hollywood. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. So through knocking on a lot of doors, switching to basically an unpaid position to get my foot in the door, because that's what you do in Hollywood, right? You pay your dues. I got into Hollywood. I've worked at companies like Disney, BuzzFeed, Skydance, as well as a lot of big law firms. And I've represented big talent like Tom Hanks and Marissa Tomei, and I've been the lead attorney on 18 feature films. So that's kind of my legal career and kind of how I got there. And then in 2022, I had a midlife crisis. I have always been wanting to be creative. And I asked myself, what is my creative legacy that I'm leaving in the world? And, my kids are my greatest legacy, but like my husband gets to leave, he designs airports all over the world. So there are like huge airports, all the San Francisco airports, Incheon, Auckland, they're all his. And I'm like, oh, what do I want to leave something behind? And, I was watching a YouTube channel, Ali Abdal's, and he had this course. It's called the Part-Time YouTube Academy. It was geared towards professionals who wanted to start a YouTube channel. And I was like, oh, this would be great. So I took his course. And I said, I'm just going to start a YouTube channel. So I started a YouTube channel called The Hollywood Attorney. And I never told anybody. I didn't tell my work. I didn't tell anyone in the industry about it. Because when you're a Hollywood attorney, you're actually supposed to be super tight-lipped. Everything's confidential. Like you don't share any details. And I didn't, right? I kind of just share kind of broadly, this is how you put a movie together. This is an actor deal. And then somebody gave me the idea of like kind of grabbing a trending story and then giving a legal analysis on it. So at the time, the Try Guys drama was happening. Do you remember that when that happened? So Ned Farmer was caught, sleeping with one of his employees. And because I worked at BuzzFeed, I was at Vid Summit that year, and one of my friends, Sarah, one of the keto twins, said, you should do a video on this. So I went home, made a 3-minute video, and that video just blew up. Like it got like hundreds of thousands of views, and I only had 200 like subscribers on my channel. And so that was kind of like the start of my YouTube channel. And it was so hard. As we've talked about, like starting a YouTube channel and growing it is probably one of the hardest things. And I would say it might even be harder than law school or having kids. I mean, it's just really hard.
What are some of the hardest things about it? Like, I'd love to dig into that a little bit, because I think that a lot of people have experienced that, but a lot of other people are like curious, like what has been some of the biggest struggles for you? Is it just like figuring out what works? Is it keeping up with it? Like what's been the struggle for you personally?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think one thing is just, yes, it's making a video every week, right? So for about a year, I try to get a video out every week. And I was working as a full-time attorney in Hollywood with 2 young kids. So I would be filming nights and weekends, like after everyone went to sleep, usually between the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. And then I would send the videos to my editors in India, and then it was just like constantly every free minute, I was either filming or editing or giving feedback. And it's also a very lonely journey. I know a lot of the members in WIM probably have clients who are creators. Like, it's a very lonely career, right? Because most traditional careers in the corporate world, you actually get to go talk to somebody, you get to be a part of a team, you have a boss, which might not be a great thing, but it's like you actually get to interact with people. When you're a creator on YouTube, it's just it's you and the camera. Now, there's a part of that I love about it, right? Because this is why I'm so passionate about protecting and supporting creators. I have been part of the Hollywood machine, and Hollywood is controlled by a few men, basically, right? Like the studio heads, right? And they are the ones who deem if your story is worthy of being told. And I've seen hundreds and hundreds of projects die in development. And it's so sad, these amazing screenplays that'll never see the light of day. But when you're a YouTuber, you have an idea, you turn on your camera, and within a couple of days, you could have it out into the world. I mean, how amazing is that? And it could blow up, and it could lead to, your channel blowing up, and you could quit your job, and then you're the media company. This is what I tell my clients, right? They think their YouTube channel is their business. And I said, no, like your YouTube channel is the marketing arm of your business. You're actually the media company. You're the actor, you're the writer, you're the producer, you're the director, you're the editor, you're the distributor. How much power is that, right? And how amazing is that? So you weigh on one side how lonely it can be, but the payoff is huge. I represent a lot of huge creators, 100,000, to up to 13 million. I just had a new client sign up who has 13 million subs. And they make six figures with AdSense and brand deals. And it's a legitimate business and a career that you can actually make money from. Now, I help my clients think about how do we get you to 7 to 8 to 9 figures with like a course or product launch, right? That's really where the next level is, right? Everyone should have a Mr. Beast Feastables or Emma Chamberlain coffee or Prime Hydration or Skim. I mean, like she's not a creator, but these are products that people want to buy from people. And I think we know this in marketing, like people want to buy from people. They don't want to buy from corporations anymore. And so that's why these creators have so much power, right? Why so many brands now spend in the creator and influencer space. And it's only just going to get bigger, right? I mean, Goldman Sachs says in less than 3 years, the creator economy will be worth $490 billion. I mean, that's just crazy. And so, yes, it has been really hard. I'm now at 30,000 subs, which I'm super grateful for. But you have to be consistent. I haven't been consistent since I've started growing my law firm the last, 4 or 5 months. I haven't been super consistent. So you have to like push yourself. Like when you want to go to sleep, you're like, nope, I gotta go script. I gotta go film. I have to go edit. I have to go give notes to my editor. And that can lead to burnout. We've seen a lot of big creators leave the space, Casey Neistat and Emma Chamberlain. And so we have to be, I think, more gentle with creators. And I hope that people who are in the audience know that, right? That, okay. And I'm seeing that. There's a lot less punishment, for creators who don't upload every week anymore. I consume a lot of YouTube. Like you've seen that, right? People are like, I think, kinder now to creators.
I think it's so fascinating, like your perspective in particular for a number of different reasons. But one is like, I know we have a lot of business owners who listen to this podcast and are part of the community.
Mm-hmm.
And they hear your story where you're also a business owner. You're growing this law firm
Mm-hmm.
specializing in creators and the creator economy. But you also have 30,000 subscribers on YouTube, and that's different. Like, that's unique. I feel like a lot of people sort of like work in the creator economy, but there's like a distinction. Like, I'm behind the scenes, not in front of the camera. Like, but
Mm-hmm.
you have really masterfully like bridged that gap. And I think like I want to get into that because that is super unique. I can assume that you prioritize your own personal brand marketing. So, and you've done such an incredible job at doing that. I'm so curious, like, what were your goals of launching the YouTube channel from the start? And how has that evolved into what you're hoping to achieve with it today now that you've grown it?
It's really interesting. Thank you. That's a great question. So my reason for starting my YouTube channel was I remember being on Instagram and constantly feeling like crap after I've been on it. I'm seeing all these people's beautiful lives and beautiful vacations and beautiful homes. And I'm like, oh my God, this makes me feel so awful. And then I like asked myself, because I represent at the time in Hollywood big celebrities. I've seen behind the scenes. I've seen how actually awful it is to be like a celebrity in front of the camera in the limelight all the time. And I wanted to pull back the veil. That was my tagline on my channel page, was like pulling back the veil. I wanted to show people that just because you see something on screen or on Instagram, that's not actually how it is, because people always just show what's beautiful, right? And what's perfect. They don't actually show how it is. And so I wanted my very first video, actually, I've privated and actually am thinking of making it a public again, was about, it was a trip to New York. I was going on set to a Sean Penn movie called Black Flies that I was the lead attorney on. And I took my daughter, and I thought it would be cool for her to like go on set with me and see it. And it was really, really hard. My daughter wanted to go to the Bronx Zoo and it was just too far. We couldn't get there. So I felt so much guilt not being able to like be a good mom, and then being torn and not being able to kind of do my job. And it was very kind of like raw and vulnerable. And I had privated for a little bit because my work didn't know about it. But now I'm not there anymore. So I might actually make it public and show people like that. So that was the impetus for me starting my channel, was I wanted to show people and actually help women, working moms, feel a little better about themselves. Like that was what I thought my YouTube channel was going to be. And that's the thing that I want people to realize is, a lot of people can't start their YouTube channels, or they get flustered in the beginning, or they put out a few videos and it doesn't do well, and they're like, well, that's it, I tried. But you actually, like, what my channel was then and what it is now is very different, right? Back then I was doing a lot of kind of trending Hollywood stories with a legal, like, kind of analysis to it. So last year in May, the private equity fund company that I work for was acquired by MetLife. And of course they said, oh, nothing, no changes will happen. And of course they lied, because, in May, actually they were acquired in March. In May, they told us we're shuttering the studios division, right? So 12 of us were laid off. And I was at a crossroads, right? So I was like, okay, what do I do now? I'm practical. I'm a mom. I went looking, to see if I could find anything, but it was during the strike, right? And so everything was shut down. No one was hiring, especially at kind of my senior level. And I had a lot of creators, like, during that year that I was building my YouTube channel, come to me wanting me to, like, look at their brand deals or kind of represent them. And I always said no. I never made money when I was working still. But then I said, well, I could do that now, right? While I'm trying to, like, find another job, I could do this. And so for the first couple of months, I just kind of, like, helped my friends or creators who would come to me asking me to redline their brand deals, or a couple licensing deals. I had a couple of creators who were being offered TV deals. And so that's right up my alley. So I did some of that. And then I was starting to get traction. And then I said, well, I'm just going to start making some videos about, for creators, with a real focus. So I rebranded myself to the creator's attorney. All of my videos now have my audience in mind, right? And that's really important, right? And we've talked about this, that when you have to know who your avatar is, like, who is that one person, and I've named this person, it's like, her name is Emma, and she's 30, and she has her YouTube channel, and she's, like, starting to get traction and some brand deals, but, like, she wants to quit her job, but she doesn't know how to make enough money to quit her job. And so creators have two pain points, right? They have, how do I make money and how do I not get in trouble? So whenever I'm making a video, those are the two things I think about, right? For Emma and all the creators out there. And I made a few videos and they kind of took off, but I think it's just been word of mouth, right? I think it's like, I've gone to events and I've met people. And so now, like, going back to your question, now my channel is fully focused on protecting and supporting creators, right? My last video on SS Sniper Wolf was basically breaking down, like, okay, what's happening here? This huge YouTuber with 30 million subs showed up at the house of another YouTuber and live streamed their house to her 5 million Instagram followers. That's not okay. That's actually illegal. And this is why. And I kind of broke it down. And then I kind of talked about fair use. And I talked about, why as creators you should have a partnership agreement, because she is in the middle of a divorce with her husband who's claiming rights to her channel. And because they don't have a partnership agreement, it's going to court, and so you let a judge or a jury decide the future of your channel. And you just needed to have a simple piece of paper in place that would say, okay, upon termination, upon dissolution, like, what happens then? And so a lot of my work is actually professionalizing my clients and helping them realize, okay, yes, a lot of them don't want to hire an attorney because they're like, why do I need an attorney? It's fine, right? Because a lot of them are young. They've never been through litigation. They've never, had things fall apart. But I've had it, I've been with one client for like 3 months now. And sure enough, she, like, hired an editor. She didn't have him on a contract, even though I was like, let me do it. She just hired him, and he had a trial period for 30 days. And then he left, and he was like, I could go start my own channel. And, like, now he's taken all of her kind of her IP and her ideas and how she, like, has blown her channel up to 2 million in a year. And now he's going to go, start a competitive channel. And so I said, okay, your next editor, I'm going to draft the agreement. We're going to have a non-compete in there, which in California, like, some courts don't like that, but that you can't steal IP. You can't take my IP. So it's just simple things like that, right? That you hire an attorney to help you put protections in place, because litigation is way, way more expensive, right? Litigation is like 50,000 to file a motion to dismiss to get out of a lawsuit. It could be 100,000 just to get depositions done and discovery. I mean, it's messy and expensive. So A lot of my work is having to convince creators this is why you need an attorney, or get a couple of templates. I'm actually thinking of creating some templates I'll sell that I think will just like make it easier, and you just have it as part of your business library templates, and you'll be covered off then. Did that answer your question? I'm sorry. I always like tend to like go off on tangents.
No, it 100% answers my question. I just have a follow because I'm curious. I know there are a lot of people who maybe they're not necessarily attorneys, but maybe, whatever it is that they do in the creator economy, they're trying to get clients. And I think that with the help of social media, it could sort of be similar to what you're doing, which is like a knowledge share, right? Where it's like, I'm going to create a video that like tells you a little bit about what I do and shares my knowledge. So there's value being exchanged. You come, you see my video and you also share it because you're like, wow, this is really valuable. I
Mhm.
think some people struggle with how much do I give for free versus like when do I start like sort of gatekeeping something or anything at all because this is a business for me. Like, how do you straddle that line? Do you have a philosophy around that? Do you have a strategy around that? Like, how do you approach it?
I have a philosophy. It's to give it all. I give it all. I just had a call right before our conversation here with a new client, basically. And I give him every single, like, behind the scenes of like how to negotiate a brand deal because he's a smaller channel. And honestly, if he gets paid $1,000, I take 15%. That's like nothing for me. Right. But I'm teaching him, how to fish, basically. I'm teaching him, okay, these are the things you need to ask for. You need to ask a brand, what are their goals? What's their budget? What's the usage? Things that most creators like have no idea. Like these are just foreign terms to them, right? So in my videos and with my calls and with my clients, I just give all the information. Because here's the thing, when you genuinely share and don't gatekeep, people know that. People understand it. When they walk away from a conversation with you or a call with you where they learn something and they're transformed, then they're like, ooh, that was helpful. Like, I want to work with them, or I want to come back and watch more videos. And here's the thing, like with every situation, every deal, every case, the facts are different, right? So I could give information about this hypothetical or this situation that happened, but for you, the new client, it could be different, right? So I could have shared, when you share all your knowledge, I think what you're doing is you're establishing yourself as an expert, and that's what you want, right? You want to do that. I haven't been as strategic as you think I am. Like I didn't sit there thinking, okay, I'm going to be this person. I'm just out there very enthusiastically and passionately sharing how much I want to protect creators and how it's a problem that they don't know all these things that they need to protect themselves, and that they're signing most agreements that are put in front of them. And I know you've seen this, like it's a problem. And so I just want to share all the information. And if they've learned something and that's enough, that's great. But here's the thing, as these creators grow and their businesses grow, the complexities grow. As they grow, right, they're going to need more people on their team. They're going to need an attorney. They're going to need a CPA. They're going to need a COO. Actually, one of the other kind of businesses that I'm growing right now is kind of a fractional COO business, right? Because I do that for my clients already. I give them strategy and advice on how to grow their channels, how to start a podcast if they want to, how to launch a product, how to make 7 figures, how to launch a course. I mean, these are all the things kind of a operations or COO would do. And I'm kind of giving that away for free with most of my clients right now. And so I see a need there for big creators, right? Are going to need more support and more of a foundation. And I think when you give your knowledge away, it brings people back. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's interesting because like maybe and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but a way of approaching it could be I'm just gonna share the value, I'm gonna give it out, I'm gonna put it out there, but maybe the access is what you monetize, right? Because like I'm still just putting it out there. It's like a one-way channel. Like perhaps you comment and I comment back, but like additional access is what you monetize. But that's one option. But I love it's so interesting to hear you say like I'm able to also help my clients grow their monetization channels and to learn how to just like build their businesses. Maybe you hear different in your world. In my world, I don't hear a lot of lawyers say that they have the ability to help and support in that way. And I think that's like a major point of distinction for you. So my question for you is like, how do you take creators from earning six figures, but relying on AdSense to landing brand deals, to launching products and courses and physical items, like you mentioned? Like, what sort of, like, how do those conversations go? I'm sure the advice is different, of course, depending on the creator and the channel and their strategy, but like, what kind of, like, have us be a fly on the wall for a second. Like, what are some of those conversations like with people?
Well, so for instance, this new client that I talked to today, I just tell them right from the beginning. I mean, he's like only 16,000, but he's getting a couple of brand deals. And I said to him, I said, "Do you have a website? Do you have your email list? Because that's who's going to buy from you. And I want you to launch a course. I want you to really think about it." Because he's an AI channel. And so he is primed for that. And there's this creator called Film Booth who has a great course. And he just did this video about doing these weekends webinars. I have a client, Jenny Hoyas, who, is the Mr. Beast of shorts. She did a weekend seminar. And I think like 200 people signed up and she made five figures. And it was sort of and I told her she should charge more and she will next time. But, those are the things I do for them. I'm like, you're not charging enough, and just giving them gut checks and being their biggest cheerleader. Because that's the thing, right? Is most creators always undersell themselves. And a lot of women do, right? They always undercut their prices. I have an amazing client who just launched a 6-figure course. He sold out in 3 days, and I helped him launch that course. Now he did the bulk of that work because he had spent 2 years giving free content, right? So for 2 years, he grew his channel to 100,000. But he also kind of has that unfair advantage. He's a level 7 engineer at Amazon. His channel is called A Life Engineer. He's super smart. He was actually my first client, and he so believed in me. He was the one who told me I should start a law firm. And he recently told me something that I'm so grateful to. And his name is Steve. Steve said, "If you were a stock, I would buy shares." And it was just like, it was so like to have clients who believe in you. Because, like as I'm toiling and growing this business by myself, like sometimes I'm like, why am I doing this? Like I could just go get Paramount's been headhunting me, like wanting me to go be a SVP. I could just go make 6 figures and it would be fine. But I love this so much, Jesse. Like I love it so much because I'm making such meaningful changes in a difference in every single creator's life. And that matters deeply to me. I want to help them quit their jobs. I want to help them launch these courses. So the courses, I think anybody can do a course. Like most of my clients are professionals and have educational channels. So I think if you're an educator, you can create a channel, right? You could create a course. A weekend course could, it could be $500, $1,000, and you just do the math, right? I think that's one way. Membership, I actually think, is another huge way. I've actually just met with the CEO and founder of Mighty Networks. And so they have a very interesting way of monetizing membership. And so, they're asking me to try out their membership, and I might, right? Because I want a way to interact with my members. Your membership is amazing. I mean, the WIM membership is I think that's just gold, to be able to be in that group and talk to people and see the castings and see available brand deals. I mean, that is like worth its price in gold. Like, so I think everyone should join WIM just for that, the community right there. So it's courses, it's membership, and products. I mean, I really think products are the way to go. Now, is it white labeling? Is it Joe Rogan did something really smart. He worked with carnivore snacks. They offered him 1% of the company, and he let them use his name and likeness on their packaging. And that's another way creators could make money, right? They can find established brands that they just need a name, right? That they just need a creator. They need a face to put on their product. So there's just a lot of different ways to make money. But from out of the gate, I say to every client, are you thinking about, how are you capturing your audience? How are you thinking about not just being tied to AdSense and brand deals? Because that's just a recipe for burnout. If you're just tied to like, I got to make a video every day or every week, and you're at the whims of someone else, basically, right? Like brands or other companies. But when you have your own product, your own course, your own templates, whatever they are, I think that's when you find freedom, right? That's when you're in control of your own destiny.
Absolutely. And the thing is, it doesn't need to be an either or situation, right? It can be
Yes,
all of the
for
above.
sure. For sure.
Because like the more sophisticated your business becomes, the more it grows, the ideal situation is to have lots of revenue streams, because businesses don't always have great years, or it goes up and down. But if you have multiple sources of income, then you're not completely reliant on one of those. If it takes a dip, thank goodness you have this other revenue stream that sort of compensates or what have you. So no, it's so good to be able to think like multifaceted. And I think there's a distinction here. I tried to ask the question very specifically because I want to be cognizant and articulate the fact that, like, in order to be able to get deals for products and things like that, like, you already have to be at a certain level and already have an audience and a following to be able to launch a membership, like in a community. Like, you have to have people to want that. So there is like a jumping off point. But once you're at that jumping off point, I think it's like so valuable for people to have someone like you in their corner, or like some talent managers can do it. Not all. Some of them are a little more transactional, but some of them are big picture thinkers. And to have big picture thinkers to be able to be on their team and a part of their team and say like, okay, now we're at this threshold. Here is what the landscape looks like. And it's great because of course you have that perspective because you're working with multiple creators. So you can see, like, I was privy to this incredible like launch of a course or something from this guy over here. Like, let me tell you about that as well, because it's totally possible for you too, right?
Yes. And that is something that I'm so grateful and excited about, because I'm able to touch empirical proof like all the time, all around me, right? Because I'm working with so many different creators and companies. I mean, I'm part-time GC to Whaler. And so I work with a few management companies as well, kind of supporting legally, because, a lot of these companies don't have in-house attorneys yet. They will, right? I think in the next 3 years, 5 years, you're going to see a lot more attorneys go in-house at these companies. And I think, one of the reasons I think I'm able to give my clients kind of strategy and how to grow their business is I've been in-house, right? I've been in-house at Disney and Skydance and BuzzFeed. I've seen how these companies grow. I've been part of the executive suite. And so I'm able to see like, okay, this is what you should focus on and this is what you shouldn't focus on. And in Hollywood, actually, a lot of presidents and COOs are attorneys, right? Because we're in the middle of the deal making, right? We're kind of there. You should bring in an attorney as soon as possible when you're making the deal, because we can tell you what you should be asking for, what could go wrong, right? Like, those are things that an attorney could do. And so I'm able to kind of be in this position of being able to be a fractional COO for them, because I can guide them and I can execute, right? I can execute with the agreements, which people who are just pure COOs can't do. And so I am in this kind of like really exciting spot, like intersection of being able to do kind of some cool things.
And I'm excited for you. And so I think that, like, regardless of, there's a lot of different types of people who watch our episodes. So I want to, for those people who are building companies like you're building other people, helping to build other people's companies too. But inevitably, like, at the end of the day, like, you're also building your own. And I want to dig into that a little bit as well. If you could give one piece of advice to someone building a company specifically in the creator economy, what would you tell them? Like, what do you wish you knew early on?
Well, I don't know I will answer that. But before that, I kind of wish I had done this way earlier, right? Like, I wish I had gone out on my own, but I just was not brave enough. Like, I think growing up, working in the swap meets, seeing how much my parents struggled with their own business, being self-employed is very tough. It's very risky. It's sometimes you have good months, sometimes you have bad months, right? So I never wanted that. I always wanted to work for a big company and have that kind of stability. But now that I've done it on my own, and maybe because I've seen success, I'm like, why didn't I do this years ago? But I couldn't have, right? Like, the kind of the blood and sweat that I gave to the machine that is Hollywood gave me the building blocks to be able to do what I'm doing now, right? I wouldn't be able to build my own company or help my clients build their companies if I didn't have the knowledge that I learned from those companies in Hollywood, right? So this question, my answer is going to be a little wonky because I'm an attorney already, so I have my built-in safety net. But for most companies, I would say as they're starting, I want them to start thinking about having an attorney sooner, right? Getting those kind of like first things in place as you're doing partnership agreements, as you're hiring people. A lot of people don't do employment contracts. And I think that's a mistake. I think they should have employment contracts that talk about what happens upon termination, what happens, when you're no longer working with us, what happens to our IP when you leave us. I mean, these are the kind of simple things. A contract could be $1,000, right? But once you have one contract, that could be your template, right? Like you spend a couple thousand getting a template done and you could use that for every employee, right? So I think that would be one thing that I would really think about is getting an attorney in place. I know that sounds a little self-serving, but even if I was an attorney, I would still say that because I think it's so important to protect yourself that way. And so that's not my goal. My goal is to give the best advice. And I think the best advice is to think about an attorney and incorporate. Oh my God, that's huge, right? Like get an LLC done immediately, especially for creators. A lot of creators come to me and ask me, when should I incorporate? And I'm like, immediately, because what people don't realize is when you have a corporation, it protects your private personal assets, right? If you get sued because of your business or your YouTube channel, if you don't have an LLC in place, that's a lack of a protection there, right? Like there's no veil to pierce because it's like you have a house that's up on the chopping block, during a litigation. So in corporations, like $800 maybe, depending on what state you're in, or $500, $800, $1,000, that's money you should spend. So maybe that's the first thing you should do, right? A lot of creators ask me, well, at what point? And I'm like, at any point when you're starting to make a little bit of money, if you're making AdSense, like if you're not making any money and you're just like, before your first 1,000 subscribers, probably not, right? But like as soon as you start making money, you should do it. So that's the first piece of advice is incorporate and get maybe an attorney, get a CPA in place that can just help you navigate and learn what you can write off, because that's really important because you can write off stuff when you own your own business, right? That most people who've worked in the corporate world don't realize they can.
Absolutely. And also the realities too is like I've seen where people have delayed some of those things, especially like sort of creating like good solid contracts or getting CPAs who like really get their books organized and stuff. And like you're going to eventually pay for it later. There's only so long that you can delay these things. The sooner you start treating your business like a business, the sooner it'll start performing like a
Yes.
business, but it's going to have to happen eventually. And I'm a firm believer in just like putting a little bit more work in the upfront pays off dividends later. Because you're going to have
For
less
sure.
time later when you're super busy and trying to manage all the business that's coming in and the clients. Like the last thing you're going to want to do is be in the weeds of like the paperwork to incorporate, which really isn't that much depending on what state you're in. But like I've done it for multiple businesses and like it can be intimidating. So I want to acknowledge that. But like it is totally doable
Yes.
and super, super necessary. I also want to ask, like, you've created a law firm for yourself. You used to work for these large companies. You've gone off on your own and like you've had a lot of successes along the way. You're saying these great new clients that you're signing and bringing in the door. You've grown this YouTube channel, which is an incredibly powerful like marketing arm to your business, which is wonderful. But I also want to we always try to keep it real on the show. And
Mhm.
like, I'm someone who's built a business and like there are tough moments to that climb. There are tough moments to building what you're ultimately looking to achieve. So, what have been some of the tougher moments that you've really struggled with? And maybe if there's any advice that you can give to our audience for things that you specifically went through.
Well, I think, figuring out at what point do you hire someone, right? Because I'm still on my own, but I am in the process of hiring an assistant because I realized that things are just falling through the cracks. Like emails are like sitting there for like, they can't sit there for 2 or 3 days without kind of a reply to them. I think I've been blessed with like a lot of success, right? Like usually when I talk to clients, they always hire me, I retain them, they retain me, and we're on our way. I had a few clients I've had to fire an agency, and I didn't love it, but he wanted me to do kind of shady, slightly illegal things, and it just didn't feel right to me. And that was hard because he was paying me money. I mean, he was nickel and diming me a little bit, but it was one of my first clients, and I was like, oh, I'm potentially giving up, a couple $1,000s a month. And at that time, like that was a lot for me. But I checked in with myself, and I knew that this is not someone I wanted to do business with. So kind of having those conversations with yourself, saying, okay, like, are you going to take money because you need it, or are you going to do the right thing and kind of fire a client? So I think that was like one hard point for me. Another one, I got connected with the startup, who I'm really, really excited about. And it sounded like she was going to hire me as an attorney and kind of help her build her company. And then I sent, my engagement letter, and I'm starting to ask for a retainer now. And she like basically was like ghosted me, and it's just like she kind of disappeared. And we like had several meals together, and I really felt like we connected, and it was very strange to me. And then she finally came back to me and said, oh, we have new investors coming in, and I think they're going to bring in their team of attorneys. And so it's like, I guess what happens is I'm very I care about my clients a lot, and I get very emotionally invested. And so it almost feels like a relationship, and it is like, and almost a friendship. And so I get very invested. And so when she kind of like went away, I got really hurt, and I want the best for her, right? So if this big investor is going to come in and grow her company, and they want to bring in their own attorneys, that's fine. I get it. I'm not a big law firm, even though I've worked at the big law firms. And if that's what they want, that's okay. So it's kind of, I care a lot about my clients. And so when they go away, like that's hard for me.
So after that type of experience, there's so many people that can relate to that. Like there's so many people that can relate to that. I know I can. And like, I'll tell myself, I'm like, I got to learn something from this. Like, cause there has to be a better way of doing this. But like, I don't know that I personally can become like more disconnected, because that's also not the type of like human that I want to be. But it's tough. And so you go into it knowing they're like, oh, this could be tough, but I'm going to continue to put myself out there. And like, I don't know, but I want to learn something. Like, would you do anything differently, like having gone through the experience, or is that just par for the course?
No, I think I'm always going to like care very deeply. And for the clients, that's what they're looking for, and it matches. I don't want to say that that's not what she wasn't looking for. I think she was doing what was best for her business. I think she really wanted to hire me, but I think the investors coming in or big dollars. And so they wanted maybe they just have their own lawyers, which I totally understand too, right? Like you have people you trust and that you want to work with. So no, I wouldn't do anything differently. I was going to say I love deeply, but like maybe that sounds weird in the professional world, but I do care deeply. And so I'm never going to change that about myself. And so no, I don't think I would.
And I appreciate that. And like, I appreciate that the answer is like, no, not really. And like, I know that there's so many people that can relate to that. And the thing is like being on your own, having your own business, you feel the highs so much more. And then you feel the lows so much more, because if you work for somebody else and you like lose a client or whatever, like it just hits so differently,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that, I don't know, the lesson is like, every case is different, of course, like every situation is different. But what I hear you say loud and clear, and I co-sign this 100%, is like, there are situations where you lose a client, you fire a client, whatever it is, but like trust your gut also, because there are also instances where we try to just make it work, even though it feels like it's wrong for some reason. And we feel like we're conflicted about it, but our nature is to just like figure it out, make it work. Like, that's not like, imagine if you freed up the time that you were taking from working with such a difficult client and fired them because they were being so difficult. Imagine the time and energy that is now freed up to attract all these better clients that are just better aligned with your business and your morals and stuff like that. And it's just, I've personally never regretted firing a client, but you have to get through that experience because especially if it's one of your first ones or, whatever, like it's a scary thing to go through because you're like, is this the smart decision for my business? Sometimes when you're a business owner, you have employees like, where
Yes.
I have to pay for these people, stuff like that. So there's a lot of things to consider, but I don't know. I think it's all like energy. And if you free up, negative energy, there's that much room for positive energy to flow in. Look, I have a feeling that a lot of our listeners would love to reach out and just like get to know you. You're part of WIM, but I think that a lot of our listeners would love to connect more with you and just learn how they can possibly work with you, just get to know you even better aside from this conversation. So what's the best way for our audience to connect with you?
Oh, thank you for that, Jesse. So I have my own website. It's tylerchoulaw.com. It's TYLERCHOU law.com. I'm on YouTube and Instagram as the creator's attorney. I'm pretty easy to find. And if you're a member within WIM, I am not in the group as much as I would love to be because I'm part of so many different groups, but always email me. I think that's the best way. And I would love to support the members in this group or any creators or any management companies or agencies, because this is kind of when podcasts started. Do you remember? It was just like, it was the wild, wild west. There were like no rules or no procedures, or no one knew like how to make the deals or the contracts. And I feel like, the creator space is sort of like, the YouTube space is sort of like that, the creator economy. And I am in this kind of privileged position of being in the intersection of so many different clients right now. So I'm seeing different things. And actually, one of the things I wanted to share, because I know a lot of the listeners are managers, is to be really careful as you're entering a management company to look at the contracts that they're having you sign. I have had 3 managers come to me in the last few months, either because they've joined a new management company and the old management company is trying to take commission, which is actually illegal in some states, or one manager is trying to leave another agency and they're like saying, you can't take anyone with you and we're going to sue you. I mean, it's really chaotic and awful right now for a lot of managers. Like, have you heard about this, Jesse? Like what's been happening with a lot of these companies? And
not that specifically. I mean, I'm very aware that like just the management in general is just a very like unregulated side of
yeah.
our industry still. And there's a lot of power there. There's a lot of money flowing through there. So I've certainly heard like horror stories, but no, tell me more about this because I haven't necessarily heard more.
So I have this one instance where one manager went to another place and apparently the agreement that he signed with his old company states like a 3-year commission tail. And I don't think that's legal. And whether that goes through litigation or not, that's not for me to say. But like, that's a problem for the new management company. Do you know what I mean? Because they're having to now be on the hook. And it's just like, so it's like, I want managers to really look at what they're signing when they're joining companies. And that's the thing, right? When you're joining a company, it's like, it's the honeymoon period. Everything's great. You just sign, you just want to like start and like, show up and do good work. You don't want to be difficult, right? But that, as we all know, like you don't usually stay with a company forever, right? And so especially in kind of our industry, the creator space, like people move around a lot. So just be really mindful of what you're signing. Make sure that the non-compete provisions in there, any kind of commission tails, like that's potentially illegal in some states. And so I'm really kind of heavily involved in that right now, like just accidentally almost, right? Because like brands or agencies are like, oh, like I'm having this issue. Can you look at it for me? And at my core, I am basically an employment attorney, right? Because all of the contracts I did in Hollywood, actor agreements, director agreements, writer agreements, they're employment contracts. They're just for short amounts of time, but at their core, they're employment contracts, right? And so looking at employment contracts is something I do often. So I just want, the members who might be listening to really keep an eye. And if you're a management company owner or an agency owner, like you should be asking your new hires, like, hey, what does that old contract look like? Can I take a look at that? Or have your own templates in place where you have termination provisions in place, right? Like, what does that look like when you leave the company? You know, like I said earlier, like you can't take RIP. You can't take brand deal emails with you. But some people don't know that, right? Like some managements companies or managers, like they just take all their emails with them. And that's not technically okay. So it's like there are a lot of pitfalls here that I'm seeing that are kind of jumping up at managers. So I just want our members to be aware of that.
No, I so appreciate that. These are really, really invaluable advice. And most of our members are managers, so I know that they're going to listen. Their ears are going to perk up, and also the creators that are listening too. It's all like symbiotic. It's all very related. So I know that it's very much appreciated by people who are tuning in. Just thank you for coming on today. I'm excited for people to reach out to you. Definitely check out her YouTube channel. It's so good, and connect with her one-on-one. She's a really, really wonderful. Talking about you like you're not here. She's awesome.
Okay.
So I appreciate you so much coming on today. Thank you guys so much for those of you who are tuning in. Share this episode because I think it's a lot of useful information that a lot of people could really benefit from hearing. And we will see you guys next week. Bye, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode, we gotta have you back. Check out our website for more ways to get involved, including all the information you need about joining our collective. You can check out all the information at iamwim.com. Leave us a review, a rating, but the most important thing that we can ask you to do is to share this podcast.
Thanks for listening.
Tune in next week.
Tune in next week.